Now, one thing I've been doing recently with my little Arduino projects is mounting them on acrylic or plexiglass or perspex sheet, but they're not cheap. But I did find this outfit in England that just do a basic chop job, you know. They saw up, I don't know, whatever width that is, acrylic sheet, and it's if you can, here we are, look, I'll find a colour. You can see it's all plastic sheet covered, so it's fine. I don't want to take the plastic off at the moment. And then I buy a bunch of these little rubber feet. Now it takes more than 4, otherwise the plastic bends in the middle. So I generally put about 6 or 7 on them. You know, 1 in each corner and then 3 more across the middle. It works out fine. And it's a damn sight cheaper than buying other products to do the same job. Now, let me just move that one out of the way and bring in the latest little project. Unfortunately, this has got nicknamed the Twin Towers, which is somewhat obviously an unfortunate name. But let me pull this one out. This was the original tower, and so let's just call it the prototype. And as you see, they're both running on nanos on these little breadboards, or whatever you like to call them. They're actually an Uno form factor, but they give you an awful lot of great I/O pins. And every signal also has a ground and a power supply, which is wonderful. You've got your 5 volts over here and ground, then you've got another bus with, 3.3 volts with ground, plus you've got another bus with 5 volts and ground, and then every signal also has power, ground and signal, which is wonderful. Now I'm using the 24 something, what are they called? I'm sure you know, nRF24L01 maybe, something like that. Cheapest chips. There are, I think I bought 10 of them. Let's get back in the light. I bought 10 of them and I think they cost me under £1 each. Let me just grab the packet of them. Here they are, look. There they are, look. nRF24L01, 2.4 gigahertz. And I bought a pack of 10. Needless to say, I've used 2 because you can see them in front of me. And they were literally under £1 each. Now these are little Wi-Fi modules. You can see they have a built-in aerial or antenna if you wish. Crystal chip, but not breadboard friendly, as people like to say, because each one comes with can you see it through the plastic? I'm not sure. Yeah, there you see. Look, it's got 4 pins Julian line, which obviously means it's not going to work on a breadboard because there's no separation. So therein lies the first problem when dealing with these wonderful little cheap RF chips or boards. So what I ended up doing is building these guys. Let me go back to the prototype. Here you can see It's just a little cheap piece of I don't know what you call it, prototyping copper board. I've had these so long, they were almost impossible to solder because they were so tarnished. And on the back side, I hate to show it because it's absolutely disgusting. But it works, so hey, grin and bear it, John. Have a look at the back side. Let's tip it up a bit. There it is. Blotched, bodged, horrible solder joints. And as you can see, these little cheap pads, I mean, the holes are almost the same size as the copper pad, and they're certainly not in the middle. So these things must have been dirt cheap, but I bought them about 7 odd years ago and I've only used 1 or 2. I think I bought a pack of 20. Still. Never mind. And those 2 wires that appear to be suddenly added on the top here, let me try and get this to focus in a bit better, there we go. They were after I read a bunch of stuff about these little nRF24s, these things here, that if you ran them on the 3.3 volts from the Nano, it might not supply quite enough current during a peak burst of transmission. So as recommended, I stuck a 100 microfarad capacitor across ground and 3.3 volts to give it a little boost, if you like. And as I say, this is prototype number 1. Well, I hadn't really thought about it too much, so I ended up with these 3 pins hanging off the side, which are ground, and I think pins 7 and 8. No, it's actually 3.3 volts and pins 7 and 8, because ground is actually way over here on the left. So that was the first prototype, and I got it up and running using the other one with some DuPont cables and so on. So then I came across to build Mark II. This is Mark II. Much neater. Soldering is almost as crap because of the tarnished boards, but thanks to my little electronic microscope, I could check to make sure there was no shorts or anything. Now down here there was a clever little bit of bending required. As you can see, the rightmost pin is obviously not centered at what is it, 1/10 of an inch. It had to leap across. And what did I mean by leap across? Well, here you are. You'll see here is the connectors along here. Now if I try and zoom in a bit here, let's get some more light on it. You can see 7 is the last one of this strip of 8, and 8 is the first one of this strip of 8. And if you'll notice, there's a little gap between them. So here we have a little gap solver. And it worked out really well. A little bit of bending. So the leftmost is the ground, and the rightmost goes into pin 7 on the other strip. And if I could just get my pinkies to work while watching the camera, and there we go. So as you can see, it fits in pretty well. Then of course, unfortunately, I still need to get 3.3 volts to this little nRF chip. So in this case, I actually mounted two connectors at the top here, which is ground and power. Power obviously being 3.3 volts. So I have one fly lead that has to go down to a 3.3 connector down here. And that's the only lead I need. All those signals and everything else, ground, is all taken care of down here. And it worked out really, really nice, I think. And you can see I added the 100 mic capacitor as well on this one. But what I thought about, if I was going to use this for a single task project, I would have actually, on the last pin here that's not used, is actually AREF, excuse me, AREF, and that comes from here, AREF. Now if I were to disconnect that from the nano, and right next to it is 3.3 volts, and push that down the same cable, I could have got 3.3 volts out of this point here, added another pin to the strip, and then I wouldn't have needed any fly strips, leads, whatever you want to call them. But not yet. And as I said a moment ago about these plexiglass sheets, see this one I've got, I don't know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9 little pads on it. And these are very small, but it makes it nice and stable. I've also got a little breadboard area here, though not perfectly located because the power cable, the USB cable, is here, so that actually goes right across the damn breadboard. But I wanted them staggered rather than fore and aft, because you see what's going on better. Now the whole purpose of this is quite silly really, but it just proves what you can do. So what happens here, and I forget which one is the instigator, shall we say the transmitter. I believe it's this one is the transmitter. This one transmits a number, a random number, to this guy. He receives that random number, adds 1 to it, and sends it back. Then I wait 3 seconds and do it again. So that's it. I mean, it's obviously nothing major, but it does prove the concept. And depending on which particular YouTube video you watch, these two devices using this built-in antenna, you've got maybe 10 meters on one YouTube channel, 400 meters on another YouTube channel. But then if you use these guys, which I'll just drag into picture, these have, this is what they call LoRa, which is long range Wi-Fi. And these apparently can go up to 1 kilometer in clear air. So I don't need that right now, because this was just intended to monitor the temperature, humidity and so on in my polytunnel, which is, I don't know, 5 meters away. And then I'm going to be using the same chip as this one here. You see that itty bitty chip down here? That's the BMP280 from Bosch, the car electronics people. And that tiny little silver square in the top right, it measures temperature, pressure and humidity. Amazing, really. So I'll integrate that into this. It's already running here right now. It's transmitting from here to here and so on. But I'll integrate it into this one and then see how it goes. And the reason I put them on these little somewhat towers, well, one, it's to get them above the desk and give them a little bit more line of sight clearance, as opposed to having them on a bunch of cables lying on the deck here. So I think it's going to work out quite well. I guess we'll see when I finish it. Okay, that's all for now. Talk to you later. Bye.